Tip of the day number 10. Honor caretakers and healthcare workers supporting people affected with COVID-19 in your community. Acknowledge the role they play to save lives and keep your loved ones safe. Need help and support? Please contact us at the hotline 311 Psychosocial Support at 722-6575 or 518-4157. Brought to you by PAHO, the OACS Commission, and UNICEF.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.
Instead, we're going into a weekend of restriction, and maybe that should cause even more reflection. Now, a technician, I've heard that I'm not being heard properly on the air, so I hope that that's something that has been resolved. Okay, right. So I'm happy we caught that in time. Sorry that happened yesterday as well. Hopefully it won't happen again on Tuesday. So it is April 1st. Tomorrow is Good Friday. If you all believe that nothing political is going to be done by the United Workers' Party, I don't. I trust them. I trust that I cannot trust them. So I'll be looking out. And what I'm telling you, in an age of social media, so can you. We will catch them anywhere that they are, film them, take the photographs, get the voice notes, right? Because they are led by an amoral leader. They have an amoral cabinet. And it's pervasive what is going on, and it's spreading all over the country. So before I do anything else, let me get to shout outs. Shout outs to Chili's Bar and Grill in Jackmel, locked in as usual. Shout outs to all those joining the underground and joining the revolution from Mont Fortune, New Village, Mornier, Jetwin, Forbenier, Soufre, Ravine Poisson, West Hall in Vieux-Fort, and Chase Gardens. A special shout out to a one and only child, Nyla Edwin. Nia Edwid is the nickname. Coming from a boyfriend, Kyle Worrell, and a best friend, Ashley John, and a fantastic Thursday blessings going out to all the regulars in the chat room coming from Nigella Jean-Baptiste. Shout out to Funky Fungi Mushrooms, always locked in, patriots ready for the cause whenever it is called. Murray from Londonderry on your way to Miss Rennie, aka Bibiana from Londonderry, always locked in. Also Mr. Satney, and shout outs going out to Miss Dion Masle. Miss Lucilla from Jiwa, also shout outs going to you. And Vera Stephen, also known as Jello from Saltibus, thank you. Many shout outs there. Shout outs to the folks in Boisjoli Dennery locked in. I understand you're getting some nice political roads. Goodlands, Alger, Deriso, Corinth and Grand Riviere and Grosley, Moshi Hospital Road, Montparnasse, Dennery, Sanssouci, Lac Clary, Black Bay, Vieux-Fort, East Winds, Grosley, Bellevue, and of course Cap Estate, as well as those locked in from Lac Wamengo and those all over in Laho, Choiseul. Shout outs to the UWP hacks making serious money on tents. Yes, folks, those tents that you see for all of the different health efforts going on, some of them getting as much as $4,000 to $5,000 a week. All right? The people of Choiseul want to know where their backhoe, this is an announcement, where their backhoe and other heavy equipment donated by the Japanese is. They are concerned that they've been doing some sand mining in other parts. They've been seeing the equipment that Bradley's supposed to give an account for, that was there from donated by the Japanese since Lon Theophilus was the representative, and they're seeing it doing sand mining in various places, various pieces of equipment that are supposed to be to clear the mouth of the jetty area that was the pond, what was done by the Japanese in Choiseul. Bradley, accountability. Stop being like the corrupt people that you are surrounding yourself with. Shout outs to Rick Wayne. They will say that you're senile, but of course, I know you'll try to put the shit back in the horse when you get back on air next week. But how interesting all the disparaging things that Rick Wayne said on live radio with Champagne yesterday about Peter Josie and also even Michael Shastney, Sir Michael Shastney. Very, very interesting. I'll be curious to see how you walk that one back as you sing for your supper. Happy birthday to our wonderful son, Dequan Emmanuel. Wishing you all God's blessings today and wishing you long life, love and happiness coming from your mom and dad, letting you know that they love you so very, very, very much. Shout outs to the folks over at Cagney's Bar in Soufrière. Special shout outs to the General Alvin Phillip, ready, waiting for Herod to show him who is the real boss of Soufrière. Birthday greetings going out to a loving niece, Kanisha Colleen Joseph of Independence City on her special day today. Wishing her long life and prosperity, and may she live to see many more birthdays to come, coming from her entire family, especially Gina, with love. Now, folks, as I continue to say, no matter how many people send me WhatsApp messages while I'm on air, I'm not able to read them because I have to get them in so I can line them up, make sure I get the spelling and put everything on a notepad. So all of those who are messaging me now, there's nothing that I can do, which is why I always call for shout outs from the day before. Shout outs to Emma Hippolyte. The Soufrière Live A Foundation is distributing the proceeds of the second virtual telethon, $30,000, which in today's world goes a long way to helping the unemployed young men and fathers of the Soufrière-Fort-Saint-Jacques constituency. That is a great initiative, and one that is innovative because you don't really hear of events to help disenfranchised young men and fathers. Happy birthday to Elena Ogis, who turns 94 today. 94 not out. Simply amazing. Greetings coming to you from the entire population of Soufrière-Fort-Saint-Jacques. And greetings also coming to you from Maho and her children, and also from Posey, all wishing you a happy, 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 happy birthday today. Shout outs to Marvin Emmanuel of Leslieland, Ava Emmanuel and Tevin Emmanuel of Corinth, Grosley, Rosemary Calix, Tony in the furniture shop in the Chaussee Road, Inez Payne, Cynthia and Jagger Faulkner of Maynard Hill, Sandra Fede of New Village, Agatha and Sharon of Miss Charles of Entrepot. Thank you so much for locking in. I want to make a special plea to Moggy, who has a tiling company with Gail Rigobert's permanent secretary, who also is a part of a constituency and extended family, Miss Michelle. Right? You all know how much money Moggy has made off the UWP and how many contracts he has gotten and direct awards and, you know, bringing people up to Gail to do the tiling and everything. The Flavo train that you all have a song there playing. Pinkley, you too as the chairman of the UWP and Shastney, you all should be ashamed that you have a young man who produced that rhythm, right? Sitting in Miku North, Mowgli, top producer, and y'all have paid a man a cent, but yet y'all will actually look to run an election campaign and not pay the man? Well, I'm calling on behalf of fairness. I don't care who you are, whether you support UWP or Labour. Y'all cannot be staying there putting music video for Flabo Train. Y'all filming music videos for playlists, Easter playlists, giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to your top acts. And you have a boy, a young man, a teacher who did that song, Flabo Train, right? From since the middle of last year, and y'all have paid the man 1 cent. Morgie, settle your debt to the man. It's not that you don't have the money. Y'all just like to take advantage. And Mowgli, maybe there's a teachable moment in that there as well. Lastly, I want to send a shout out to Sir Michael Shastney. Wow, out of all the people who have suffered in this whole pandemic, you and your daughter have really made sure that your businesses have not only stayed afloat, but prospered. Not only from the government rentals, when all other bills, even electricity, doesn't get paid on time by government right now for government buildings. That you make sure that the rent payments and everything come in on time. And to know that right now, the St. Lucian doctors who are being facilitated at Coco Palm, the government is still paying for that facility after a year, more largesse. So where do we start? Well, it's election time. And you know what's funny? It's not just what's happening, but what's not happening. So now we have all 17 candidates for Castries South was the last one that came in. So the UWP has completed its slate. But perhaps what's more instructive is all those who drop out. You see, the UWP has managed to pull the wool over with Shastney and Guy over all St. Lucian's eyes. They know the price of everything, but the value of nothing. That is the problem with Shastney. That is his blindness, that he knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. But for those who are willing to have a price over their head, it works brilliantly when you want this amoral UWP construct to do whatever crap it needs to do. Now, I don't know, it's an uncomfortable way to put it, but it's the best analogy that I can give you. That Peterson as mayor of Castries and Buffalo and all these other people were always fluffers. Timothy Polier, a fluffer. And people don't know what a fluffer is. Well, it's one time that watching a lot of porn actually helps me out. Because when there are a lot of people making porn on the set, filming the pornography, a lot of the men cannot maintain their erections. So somebody behind the scenes, before they go onto the set to film, fluffs them, gets them, let's call it, in the mood. And what you have when it comes to UWP is people like Peterson that have been a perpetual fluffer, just basically hanging around in the background, get everybody excited and never come to run a seat. And the same thing with Buffalo. Buffalo's been through election cycles where he tried to get into Castries East, back when he used to put the little curls in his hair, you know, the little half Indian hair there, right? And they put mayors. They took a bald-headed guy. So now Buffalo went bald and he still cannot go because they put mayors. Right? And these fluffers that always come around and they always seem like they're going to run a seat when we all know that they'll never run a seat. They're just there to make the thing look like it has plausible deniability and interest. So let's look at the first dropout again, his self-worship.
Castries Mayor Peterson Francis has revealed that he is out of the running when it comes to this year's general elections. Speculation had long been rife that the mayor would attempt to contest a seat in the Castries Basin, with many even suggesting that his projects within the city were simply the beginning of a covert election campaign. The mayor, who had previously hinted at his interest in elective politics, has been questioned by the press about his possible run on many occasions.
You mentioned we're in the political season. Does that mean you'll be running for Castries? So
I think the best person to ask to answer that is Mr. Enesile.
Maybe you should take the opportunity here, Mr. Mayor, to tell us whether or not you have any interest in elective politics within the next 2 years that coming in. Maybe you should take the opportunity
especially Castries Central and
to just tell us whether you have interest or not.
Well, I always have interest in politics.
Elective politics.
Yes,
elective
but
politics.
I was a just candidate in the last election.
Yeah,
what is it? Yes.
We're talking about the upcoming one.
You talk about the upcoming one?
Yes.
The door is wide open.
Now, Francis has announced that any plans for elective politics are no more, at least not right now.
Why are you interested in politics? I remember you said earlier on that you're not giving up on the willingness to enter the fray. So what is your prospects now?
When you say my prospect in what?
Have you any
But the city council is politics.
You have already expressed your willingness to take part.
Well, presently, yes, to take part. That I have withdrawn, and I am giving full attention to the work of the Cassis Constituency Council.
Francis, who was previously a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party, eventually broke ties with them and subsequently aligned himself with the United Workers' Party. He later emerged as the endorsed candidate for the Castries Central seat in the 2016 general elections, but later stepped aside, allowing current MP Sarah Flood-Bobre to contest the seat. It has already been confirmed that Sarah Flood-Bobre will contest the seat in this year's election.
So when my father was leader of the Labour Party, Peterson worked for my father, and people thought it inappropriate for him to run the seat, and instead Irvin John ran the seat and gave such a dismal account of himself that it gave life to George Odlum, who came in second in the by-election that got Vaughan Lewis re-elected in the 90s in a parachute situation of in Central, Castries Central. Peterson then bowed out again, citing personal issues so that Sarah Flood could come in after being out of the country for 11 years and put a solid cut-ass on Stanley Felix, considering she was out of the country for over a decade. And again, Peterson, now becoming mayor, used all of the resources, had to sell the shares of Lucilec, sell some of the shares that the city council had in Lucilec, brought up the wage bill from $550,000 to $700 and something thousand, and now has all kinds of difficulty to play. All kinds of machismo, all kinds of authoritarian bravado. But you see, Shasney and them all know these guys' price. Man has managed in the time as being mayor a ceremonial position that's only supposed to pay $5,000 to redo his roof, redo his house, buy 2-3 vehicles, all kinds of stuff going on there, right? Audit commissioned by Fortuna Belrose begged him not to keep spending money without permission and all the rest. But he's always his own greatest hero and advocate. But when it comes time to be a candidate, like I said, they know his price. They know that he's a fluffer. They know that he's a prop. Just somebody to stand there to make somebody else look good. And another one who has made a professional career of being an also-ran fluffer on the side, Buffalo. I won't even bother to show Buffalo's video. I showed it before. Right? Let's show his car. Oh, Buffalo spent considerable resources. Bro, just change the sticker. It shouldn't be moving. It should be moving out. Because at the end of the day, they always move you out. You are lucky. You are lucky. Right? So what they do, right? First of all, I'm not going to feel sorry for you for the expenses that you got, that you may have incurred to put that sticker on your vehicle. And we can come up for that photo. Because you've been more than adequately compensated. Up to today, there's no justification for why you keep taking an SLG Pajero to your home in Entrepot. No justification. All of the contracts Shasney gave you to do welding to the point you could put a container behind government buildings. Just be happy with that. So don't try and pretend like you were vexed. The fellas always knew you were not going to run. It's as simple as that. So let me see. Who else is that? Oh yeah, Mary. But you see, Mary actually tells you the story of why Herman Gill is running. Because so many of them don't know Shasney and didn't know Shasney before they were bought by him, that now that he owns them, in order to keep currying favor, Shasney has shown a pattern that even though you lose, like Mary did and Fortuna did and the rest of them that did lose their seats, that they will still get jobs and big positions in the government. So Herman Gill will run to lose, so that even if he loses, he will still keep his job. But Mary, in a nice-ish kind of a way, is being shown the door.
Senator Mary Isaac, the recent recipient of the Public Service's Long Service Award, was handpicked by the Prime Minister to undertake the affairs in the Health Ministry. That's when the UWP assumed office back in 2016. Now, Senator Isaac is often on the receiving end of the Prime Minister's praises for her stewardship as Health Minister. However, there is growing uncertainty over Senator Isaac's political future after Castries South voters pressured the UWP Castries South constituency branch to ask for Mary Isaac's withdrawal from the candidate selection process. Is Mary Isaac going to be contesting the Castries South seat on a UWP ticket at the upcoming general elections?
No, she's not. She won't be.
Simon Seeley, chair of the UWP Castries South constituency branch, explained to NBC Prime the decision to forego Senator Isaac's candidacy was influenced by Castries South voters.
So it is unprecedented that we also decide to involve the constituents. So actually, it is a constituency decision along with the branch, and of course, she finds it in the best interest of the party and the people of Castries South.
Wow, so you're saying, in other words, the electorate, the Castries South voters,
yes, voters, that's right.
They did not prefer Mary Isaac.
Avec moun ki ka sa yo ka di yo ka pon kout la epi yo ka fizi we yo nan lot, yo ka chop up yo nan lot avec yo ka rive Victoria Hospital. La yo fini yo ka complain la pani nurse, la pani docteur, yo pa traité yo bien. Mais yo pa ka chile pou yo l'argent ça la yo ka pon ay boy wom nan. Pour yo sa mette en indication issue. Pour yo sa acheter groceries ek bagay bay madame yo nan kay yo. Plutôt pour yo sa ka ale ka prend toute l'argent sa boy wom et puis là yo fini yo ka vini complain about sakini ek saki pani Victoria Hospital. If you have a finger that needs to be amputated, it's going to be one price.
Wage negotiations already set to be a hot topic. The health minister was asked what message she would like to send to public officers.
I say to them, do not bite the hand that feeds you. I'm not saying for sure. Do not misquote me. I am saying I do not think that we have any cases on island that we are not aware of.
Photographs of an injured man lying on the waiting room floor on social media on Monday, allegedly at the Victoria Hospital. The minister with responsibility for health, Mary Isaac, has rebuffed the claims.
Look at the surroundings and see whether we have any such place like that at the Victoria Hospital. And I know that the posting said, I went to a hospital. It did not say Victoria Hospital.
Health Minister Mary Isaac urged St. Lucians to overcome fear and speak out.
That crime is big business in St. Lucia. It is big business and it is driven by people very far up there, way up in the hierarchy of this country. These are the people that pay people to kill people. Someone just sent someone to kill Morris. And that is the bottom line.
A woman walked in there, I walked around the chamber, we had to carry the wall, her face as blank as the moon, and just walked out, okay? And she explained very articulately to the reporters with their cameras that she wanted to eat. She was hungry. And she actually said that.
There's no proven research that can say to us this, that, or that. The only thing we know is when we look at other larger populations that have survived better than we are surviving right now, and when you look at what they do, they wear their mask, that is all I can say about that.
Members of the media sought clarification on the minister's sentiments, considering doctors, police officers, and even the Deputy Commissioner of Police have all contracted the virus.
They dropped the ball somewhere. Anybody who has had it, dropped the ball. They either went to visit a family, a friend, they hug a person that they love that had it, and they got it. You understand? Just where, if you don't drop your guard, if I have it tomorrow, it's because I dropped my guard.
Now, whether you like Mary or not, even before she was an active UWP politician, she did have a national profile. She was well known. She took the reins of the unions and brought it directly to the United Workers' Party, even staying as a UWP senator while being the head of the trade union. You look at Buffalo. Buffalo is famous as a singer, as also being a family of the Odlums, and also his own exploits in terms of building, in terms of welding, underwater welding, all the rest of that. And let's face it, Buffalo has been known to be a UWP suck-up for a long time. Timothy Polio, who pretends to be objective even now, pretends to have an open mind even now, for the last 30 years has been a UWP hack, working the back channels, the WhatsApp groups, quarreling with all those in office of the Prime Minister to make sure he gets the guests that he wants so he can kiss their ass. When you look and you say, but that's a known quantity, then you turn and you see his self-worship, you know, a pompous windbag, right, who decimated housing when he was there and has literally caused the breakup of the Castries City Constituency's Council. That's how much he ran it into the ground. But then, at the same time, he's funny in press conferences with his broken English for a half-pronounced word and mask under his nose. No problem. But they were all known, big, well-known quantities. But how did Mr. Johannes become the... How that happened?
The United Workers' Party has confirmed Bertrand Birch Johannes as the endorsed candidate who will contest the Castries South seat in the upcoming general elections. The news came as a bit of a shocker, as some argue that Johannes has been plucked from relative obscurity for a seat held by an incumbent MP who holds the prestigious position of first deputy leader of his party and whom many would concede is not lacking in charisma in political circles. Mary Isaac, who contested the seat for the UWP in the 2016 election, did so after establishing a national profile and notoriety as the Iron Lady at the helm of the Civil Service Association CSA. According to the UWP, Mary Isaac decided not to contest in a three-way runoff which included Adrian Buffalo Odlum, who also chose not to contest for the candidacy. Efforts to contact Mary Isaac for comment proved unsuccessful up until news time. However, Pinkley Francis, the chairman of the UWP, says all is well within the ranks of the party and that Isaac will throw her full support behind Johannes.
Absolutely no risk whatsoever. I mean, Senator Mary Isaac has reassured me and the party that she will be supporting the process and the candidate in cash of 100%. She put her support behind him. There's absolutely no risk in the party. She continued to perform in her role as Minister of Health. And we look forward, obviously, to Mary's support come the general election. So I can assure you that we have her full support. There was we respected her decision, and we support her, and she in turn support us as well. So I can assure you that we are all happy with the outcome.
The party chairman was questioned about why the party felt that Johannes is the man for the job in Castries South. Why Bertrand Johannes for that seat?
To add, I like candidates to sell themselves as well, but Mr. Johannes, among the candidates who decided to remain, go through the process, he's one who is part of the community. He has been making a lot of contribution on the ground, been helping a lot of people. He is in the construction and engineering business, so he obviously has a track record in that area. He felt that it was time to come in and commit to the community, and felt that he has what it takes to battle the nest in the community in South Castries. So we'll give Mrs. Johannes an opportunity very soon, as early as next week. I suspect we'll do that to meet the press and speak for himself, what he brings. But I think we were satisfied with what we saw on paper and what he brings, the level of enthusiasm, the commitment to the community, and his plans to really transform and work with them should he become the rep. So I think it was something that we were sold on, and we put our support behind it.
The UWP Castries South candidate Bertrand Johannes is from the Hospital Road area within the Castries South constituency. He was endorsed at an extraordinary National Council meeting held on Tuesday, the 30th of March. This endorsement now establishes a full slate of candidates for the United Workers' Party.
Big Daddy is the man, the United Workers' Party says, to bring home the seat held by the Labour Party for the past 5 election cycles. Bertrand Big Daddy Johannes, also known as Butch, a Hospital Road Castries native, was endorsed at an extraordinary National Council meeting Tuesday, March 30th. Simon Seeley, chairman of the United Workers' Party Castries South constituency group, confirmed the developments to NBC Prime Wednesday.
Last evening, the UWP, we saw the endorsement of course, it came to no surprise of Mr. Bertrand Johannes as the UWP Castries South candidate. And of course, we know that Mr. Bertrand Johannes has been and is very popular in the constituency, and he would be the best person at this time to run the seat. So it was, he was endorsed by the National Council.
According to a press release, Senator Mary Isaac, who contested the seat in 2016, losing by a little over 50 votes, decided not to contest the three-way runoff. Adrian Buffalo Odlum pulled out as well. As such, the two withdrawals paved the way to Johannes' ascension to the candidacy. And he is the best man for the job, if you ask the chairman.
Johannes possesses the vast majority of what we actually need, the constituents need. We need somebody who truly cares about people, to start with one. Also, Mr. Johannes have a very good heart. He believes in people. He's people-oriented, people-centered, and he loves to assist people. He believes in development of people, which is key in all areas, whether it's employment, healthcare, infrastructure, whatever it is. Mr. Johannes is truly going to bring quality representation for Castries South. So he do have, I would say, the vast majority of the attributes needed to be a representative.
And just what does Castries South need?
There are so many, and I would not even say one above the other. I know for sure healthcare is of paramount importance. Employment is at the forefront. Infrastructure, for example, even in for a show where you see, the youth does not have a playground, they just play football in the field. So recreation facility, after school program. Right now we know the children are not actually physically in the classroom. So there are so many, I could go on, and we'll be communicating till tomorrow on that same question.
Now, we have reported on multiple occasions of alleged tensions between the UWP's support base in Castries South and Senator Mary Isaac. To put it plainly, sources disclosed that the branch was not in favor of the health minister contesting the seat again, citing her supposed absence on the ground. Isaac dismissed those talks as, quote, Roro, earlier this month.
Actually, to answer your question, the word contentious, I would not say it was contentious. It's just that, the people know exactly what they want, and the party did exactly what constituents are asking. We ought to listen to the voice of the people, and that's exactly what we saw happening. In terms of Senator Isaac working with the branch, I can tell you that Senator Isaac is free, and I know, she too would have the best interest of the constituents, and she would do, the Senator Isaac that I know would do what is best in the interest of the people, not just of Castries South, but the country by extension.
Neither Mary Isaac nor Buffalo Odlum could be reached for comment. However, ahead of Tuesday night's endorsement, the incumbent Ernest Hilaire weighed in.
There's somebody called Big Daddy. It's quite a strange name for a candidate, for them to call you Big Daddy. He's been the chosen candidate, and I think they said they're going to make big announcement tomorrow, the day after. We all know the makeup of the constituency, Castries South. We all know that it is a seat that the United Workers' Party and the Prime Minister in particular wants badly. And I think more than just the seat, he wants me badly. So we'll have some very exciting days ahead in Castries South. And I look forward to Big Daddy showing just how much of a father he has been.
So for all those that don't know, what you need to know is that the metrics have changed. You see, corruption is like, it's a cancer, it's a carcinogen. After a while, it stops being the sideshow and it becomes the main event. Just look at Trump, and now tropical Trump. So what do I mean by that? Imagine before, politicians used to have to be popular. They used to have to be community oriented. They used to have had to have been involved in football teams or cricket or sports. They used to have to be involved in the Rotary Club or the Lions Club and community service. They had to be doing charity work. They used to feed the poor. They built themselves up in business, and then they would be magnanimous and giving out and helping charities and doing all of that type of work, giving people jobs and all the rest of that type of stuff. But you see, the perversion has now become the normative value in the United Workers' Party. So they don't look for somebody who has been around the community or whatever. It's based on corrupted back channels. That's what's happening here. So every other candidate was more well known, and more this, more that, more the other. And listen to what the party chair, the constituency group chairman is saying about what the needs are for Castries South. First of all, folks, Castries South is perhaps, if you want to call it, the most intense or greatest concentration of medical facilities in St. Lucia, right? Castries South, the OKEU, Castries South, Victoria, Castries South, right, has all the private doctors and all of the different private medical facilities, the forensics lab, this, that, and the other, all are in Castries South. So when you say that Mary Isaac, as a Minister for Health, who was expressing interest in the constituency before and for the last 5 years, you're saying healthcare is a huge concern for Castries South. What an indictment on Mary and the United Workers' Party. And she still continues to serve as Minister of Health, not even a freaking cabinet shuffle. Then you talk about infrastructure and all of these other things, which the government had the last 5 years not only to do, but did they do? Is it a surprise to me that Mr. Johannes has ended up being the candidate? No. I knew he was going to be the candidate from about probably 3 years ago. Why did I know and y'all didn't know? Well, it's pretty obvious if you're on the ground that Guy Joseph is the Prime Minister's Prime Minister. Guy Joseph wanted and wants Bertrand Johannes to be the candidate. And oh, by the way, it also has manifested itself in the fact that since Guy Joseph was in charge of CDP, Constituency Development Projects, and that means the Taiwanese money that comes for constituencies, that the person giving out all the contracts for the last 4 years for the United Workers' Party in Castries South, whereas it should be allocated to Ernest Hilaire as the duly elected, democratically elected representative of the people, has been Mr. Johannes. So all the crap Buffalo and the waste of time Peterson and even Mary, yo, that fix was in. Y'all never asked Chasney who built his house? Who was the contractor that built his house? Come on. And Guy Joseph owns Chasney. So we always knew. It's the same way Bradley has right now been taken over by Pinkley and Mangal and all of them, and the entire Choiseul constituency, Choiseul Saltibus. You're not voting to keep Bradley in office. You're voting to continue to let Guy Joseph and his cronies plunder the resources of Choiseul Saltibus. But it's up to you. That's your democratic choice, if that's what you want to do when election day comes. But Mr. Johannes was the one giving out all the contracts, totally contrary to what should be in a government with ethics. But you see, it's not about ethics for them. It's about the new hybrid of corruption meets bravado, where if you're wrong and strong, it works.
So, proof of payment, then you enter into contractual agreement with the company. The government is also committed to repaying the loan of the 62 million once the projects are successfully completed. So if there's no project,
so that gets the money and completes the project,
then you are committed to pay.
That letter was sent to the bank to replace all the lights, 21,500 of these high energy lights. So wait and see, just wait and see who will get the contract to replace the lights in the country. The contract will be given to a friend, to family.
Amount of stated capital, $1,000. $1,000. But they are given a letter. They are given a letter to raise $167 million. Bertram Johannes, the brother of David Johannes, Mark Johannes, who's the registered director of Pajo Limited, is Guy's right-hand man. If I lie, say I lie. 167 million given to company. Company, Davis Max Johannes, Kenan Johannes. Davis Max is brother to Bertram Johannes. Bertram Johannes is Guy's right-hand man who gives all the CDP contracts in Castries South and Castries Southeast. Connect the dots.
Connect the dots. Once again, it has come down to Chasney and his cabal's amoral equivalency that they can buy people. A guy who's not popular, don't mind they tell you he's popular. He's popular in terms of him being the one to hand out the contracts. A guy who's not well known, has no national profile except for being one of Guy Joseph's henchmen for the last however many years. Pajoa, you remember that? Yes, there you had it. And what does that tell you? That the UWP's entire modus operandi is going to be to buy votes, buy people. If they give you $1,000, that's only 54 cents a day over the next 5 years. You've seen what they've done. So now you know what to do.
Moun prof ka plewe, eleksyon wive, pou vot yo ka peye, mwen dou. Fama ka plewe, tig yo ka jete, wivan de espache, moun pa ka achete, wigas ka mute, vat pokot siwe. Jouen million, Ojo jouen million, la kobi jouen million, mais yo kabanou kakada. Yo tiwe yo, Madri yo tiwe, mete étoile, chime yo croisé, Bouvier wanger, Rabo top mauvais, Kaiche malewe.
Is gearing up to welcome its first international cruise ship since closure to the sector amid the global COVID-19 pandemic.
Hey, we at war with a virus, ready to harm us.
sanitizer. Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are no.
Advice give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with the Revolution. For those of you on radio, thank you for staying. For those of you who just tuned in, for those of you, whether you're in the diaspora or you're here, one thing you should know, as any proud St. Lucian should know, is the land, the people, the light. Our coat of arms, our motto, the land, the people, the light. Now, when you look and you see in the United States, they talk about the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you realize how much that defines them in terms of their character, their craving and their beholdenness, if you want to put it, for better or for worse, to freedom and what they extol as bravery. Now, I use that as an example because for me, sorry, you grow up, you're in school, you do social studies, you do whatever. I guess now they'll call it civics or whatever. And you learn about St. Lucia, you learn about the history of St. Lucia where you can, although we don't have a formal history course. You get to learn what the colors of the flag are, even though up to now we still saying that it's yellow when it's gold and stuff like that. And then you say to yourself, like, you don't really feel the meaning of these things. And maybe it's an indictment on people like me that there's a certain amount of complacency that just set in, that I just figured, you know, the Peters would never be touched. I assumed that they would not screw with the Maria Islands. No sound government, responsible government, UWP or Labour or any other party that would ever come in. I didn't see anybody being able to even think, utter, or enunciate, wanting to pimp out Pigeon Island. And then you start seeing it happen. And you see people like Spider that tell you they grew up doing this and that and the other, but yet they so easily, you know, walked over and they sell out and all the rest. And you ask yourself, you know, you now, from a complacency standpoint, have to have a certain amount of introspection. And not just because it is a holy weekend, but because you think and you look at the abject destruction, plundering that is going on when it comes to our land. You've seen what has happened to our people. And then you ask yourself, are these guys using the light of the torch to fool people, to vegle people? When you hear people in big business tell you they see all of the things that's wrong with St. Lucia, all of the shit that Shastney is doing, even from a business standpoint, but boy, they want to upset the apple cart. And yet St. Lucia can burn for that. Today we're going to go through a massive conflict of interest, knowing that, for starters, Herod is the Minister for Planning. So we're going to go into Soufrière, which is his constituency, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of issues. I'll just raise one or two just to show you a pattern of how these guys are using their position in government to exploit the resources of the country, take for themselves, and do for themselves. And it's actually funny how the truth manages to show itself. Because the first ad that I've seen out of the UWP for Herod in terms of his campaign has been what he's done in terms of earthworks.
For the past 23 years I've been living here and I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing right now.
Well, it benefits me quite good, quite a lot. To me, it's a very good project after how many years, many different politicians has come and they said that they want to do it. And now I see it's a very good project for me.
To tell you the truth, it have around 26 to 7 years. The road haven't fixed up yet, you overs me. But right now there, in 2021, to tell you the truth, I I see something happening, you understand me? I don't have no problem with Mr. Heron. He's doing a good job. All I have to tell people, be with Herod, stay with Herod, live with Herod, now and forever.
Now, one of the biggest con jobs that has been portrayed on St. Lucian's from Sir John's time up to now, and I will give Sir John the excuse or the rationale that there were foundational things that needed to be done in terms of infrastructure. As my father always said, he was the concrete prime minister because he developed physical infrastructure while the people stayed behind. And the Labour Party made great attempts at redress to that. And if there's one thing that Kenny Anthony can take credit for and his administration and the ministers that work with him through his administrations, is an emphasis on the development of people. So when you hear them talking about a constituency, the UWP narrative is how many roads you see, how many bridges you see. When the Labour Party speaks, they speak about how many people they helped out of poverty. How much land rationalization have they done to help people who have been squatters on lands for generations catch up to those who came out of the advantages of the plantocracy? How many people have gotten educated and been able to start small businesses or to find themselves in positions where they could help others be lifted out of poverty? But the UWP is always about concrete. It's always about land. It's always about a road and so on. And in the meantime, the people, sadly, whether they develop, is neither here nor there, because they tell you, go and work for yourself. If you come and ask us for help for anything, you are mendicant, you're lazy, you want to live on a welfare state. Meantime, Shastny can pay $15 million to one of his best friends at Ernst & Young. Corporate social welfare for budget and all the other things. Charity for the rich while the poor stay and be derided as being mendicants. When people are not even asking for a hand out, they're asking for a hand up, a chance. So now we're going to watch the conflation and see how it plays itself out. Folks, I'm going to show you a place that people even made almost like a joke out of it. You know, you say, where are you from? You're from Bhoutan. You're from Bhoutan. You know, if you say, I'm from Cap Estate, no problem. I'm from Bon Terre. I live in Rodney Bay, no problem. But they always make a joke out of Bhoutan. Sir John saw the value of Bhoutan, right? You had other Baden-Ale, all of the other representatives that have been there, Walter Fraswan, others saw the value, Dal saw, the Labour Party, administration, successive governments have seen the value when it comes to Bhoutan. But the truth is, Bhoutan, for the most part, most of the land, a lot of the land, is owned by a family of black St. Lucians who worked and earned their money and bought a substantial amount of land. They bought that land and they wanted to have always, their dream was to build a heritage site. Now, I'm going to show you Bhoutan. It's on your way, about 5 minutes, maybe more, drive away from Soufrière town. It's on your way, you may not notice it, or maybe you do. Fantastic houses inside of there. There's a Hess school inside of there from the days of Compton all the way to now. It's not the most densely populated place, but the fact of the matter is that Bhoutan is a beautiful rustic site, great trees and canopy. You have a house that is over 100 years old. It has historical linkages to Josephine of Napoleon and Josephine fame, where she is known to have visited there, stayed, and even built a house on that property. Now, the family that owns this property has been wanting to develop it as a heritage site. It is a nesting home and feeding ground for our Amazona versicolor. It offers the same spectacular views of the Pitos and Soufrière and all the rest of that. The soil, the volcanic soil, fertile as hell. But yet somehow the government seems to be looking to acquire parts of it compulsorily for other reasons. Yep, Bhutto, one of those places that you drive like you're going down, you're going to the Sulphur Springs or you're going around the island and you always just pass that gap. You just don't go in there. Just like Columbet and some of the other places around St. Lucia, you don't go. Like, you know, if you didn't see the signboard for Bois Joli, how many people in Dennery have gone there? But the beautiful thing is that's what I love about St. Lucia personally. The undiscovered country. There's always something new about this place. People in St. Lucia know more of Manhattan than they know, or Brooklyn than they know of St. Lucia. But there's a beauty to that, and the discovery and the serendipity. But again, remember, the land, the people, the light. You as the people have already been seeing what's happening. Now they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. This land, as you've seen, the beauty is obvious. Everything about it can be verified by anybody just walking in there or driving in there. And I invite anybody to take a look at it. It's brilliant, it's fantastic. And you can easily see the heritage site potential from the relationship with Napoleon and Josephine, to the soil, to the views, to everything else. But sadly, this government has seen nothing better to do than to try to acquire different parts of the land for projects which have been fought and they're in court. So I want to read one of the documents to you, a letter that went to Herod Stanislaus, and if we can put that up so I can show people. This is Levy Harrell and Associates, and the compulsory acquisition, this is February 26, 2021. Land belonging to the Harrell family, who are the heirs of Lima Harrell, who are the owners of the land at Malmaison, as Kachime in the quarter of Soufre, which is currently the subject of yet another compulsory acquisition. In other words, folks, the government has already acquired or compulsorily acquired a piece of land that they did not want to have acquired, and they fought it in the courts, and now they're doing it again. The family wishes to register its strongest opposition to the acquisition and calls upon you to immediately cease from pursuing all attempts at compulsorily acquiring our land in the event that you have initiated the acquisition, to immediately pursue the process to have the compulsory acquisition reversed. The Section 4 notice was published in the Gazette on the 15th of February 2021 without any prior notice, government communication and or dialogue with the family, as we understand it and intend the purpose for the construction of a bus shelter and lay-by. Honorable Minister, you will no doubt be aware that there is an existing judicial review matter currently before the courts in which the family is contesting a previous compulsory acquisition undertaken by you of, again, a parcel of land extracted from this very property, which you are once again pursuing. Judicial review applications are the legal process by which the courts can rescind the sanctioned government actions, which are proven to be unlawful. Accordingly, one would have naturally expected that a minister of government concerned with the principles of good governance would wish to first allow the legal process to take due course before undertaking yet another acrimonious compulsory acquisition from the very land that is in dispute. This should be so, especially in light of the fact that, one, there's already an existing bus shelter and lay-by within the immediate vicinity of the proposed acquisition, servicing the same bus route which has been in existence for over 2 decades. It therefore begs the question, what is the public interest justification for this new compulsory acquisition of our lands? 2, there is no urgent need for this new compulsory acquisition whereby the property rights and interests of the landowners are subverted by the strong arm of the government. And 3, an increasing sense that you have made the Harrell family a political target singled out for victimization based on a political motive which is clouding your judgment. With excess of 6 landowners in the immediate vicinity of the existing bus stop, why is it that we are the only landowners who are being made the subject of compulsory land acquisition of our land? And why is it that our land appears to be the focus of every single political aspiration that you have for the area? Scroll up. as a cabinet minister and a member of parliament, you undertook to uphold the Constitution of St. Lucia, which guarantees as a fundamental right protection against political victimization and deprivation from one's property. Your actions, however, appear to be a grotesque abuse of political power and begs the question, do you and the government not wish to be seen as respecting both the spirit and the letter of the Constitution which you swore to uphold? The Herrell family does not wish to have any acrimony with you or the government of St. Lucia. However, it is rarely expected that we must stand idly by and allow our constitutional rights and heritage to be nonchalantly plundered away in your personal quest for political power. While this would be the second compulsory acquisition of this property by you, this would be the third compulsory acquisition of the government, the first of which drove the road across the land, for which the family was never financially compensated. Finally, we trust that the good sense will prevail and that as a matter of urgency, you will confirm the cancellation of the compulsory acquisition attempt. We can come off that. So what are we talking about? A fantastic piece of land that should be developed together with St. Lucians. Right, that the government should be given incentives to my mind, to develop as a heritage site. Happy that Trubetskois could come and build their thing down in Soufrière Jade Mountain. But why can't St. Lucians be given incentives to do those things instead of Teoaking or instead of Cabot? Right? Why can't it be done that way, that St. Lucians could be given that? No, no. And what are they talking about? Well, the first compulsory acquisition, instead of taking land that was even government owned at Kachime, which is on the opposite side of the road, literally, where there are already government facilities in terms of electricity and in terms of telecommunications, they could have put a water tank on top, which was even higher on the other side of the road, which is better for water line distribution. But instead, they literally just took the front of the people's property, the entrance, where the government already just took a road and built a road, which they never compensated the family for. But they just compulsorily acquired, and they just put in a water tank, which they could have put in on the other side of the road on government land. They just did it. So now that you get a gist that literally across the road they could have built or installed this water tank at a higher elevation, which is the better way to do it, they just basically messed up the opening of what would have been a fantastic heritage site and still can be. Maybe they can plant enough trees and everything to block off the water tank, but let's face it, there is a compromise. But have you noticed by now that one of the reasons why people don't readily go into this community that easily is because the entrance is on a corner. And in a strange fashion, what has developed over the last 20 years is that a bus stop, an impromptu bus stop, has developed around a corner. So here's the big wonder, or why the assertion that everything has to be political with Herod and them. You've already compulsorily acquired one part of the property and put a water tank. They are in court fighting you on that. But as an election project, you want to acquire more land on the same corner for you to build a bus shelter. You want to build a bus shelter as an election project to give people some jobs for the boys, something that you can say is glugler just before the elections, and you cut out and you deface again the front of the people's property. On a corner, Herod wants to build a bus shelter. But you know the worst thing? Literally 30 or 40 physical feet, not yards, just below. For the last 20 years, there's not only a bus shelter, but a lay-by in terms of an area which could be developed. You could put a little restaurant there or a little something, a lookout point, because you can still see the Peters from there. And you have a beautiful, rustic bus shelter that can be restored. And it's literally 20 feet to 30 feet down from moving away from the dangerous bus shelter, impromptu bus shelter that's on the corner. So the question that they have is, why is it that you want to take state money, acquire the people's land after the country is broke and people are starving in St. Lucia, do an election project literally 20 to 30 feet away from what is a better location from a safety standpoint, more rustic and charming, and safer, plain and simple. But nonetheless, we'll get to the ulterior motive. But first, I want you to see just how close the existing bus shelter is that could easily be restored and developed and looks even more beautiful than where the buses stop right now. It's there, it's right there, it's well built, it's charming, it looks good. Put a little restaurant by it, give somebody a little tuck shop or something. Tell me you're going to build a little lookout point, and we're there with you, no problem. But you see, you want to go and deface the people's property, Herod, and put a bus stop right on the corner in front of what should be developed as a heritage site on the level of Chocolat, the DeVos plantation, and all the rest of that type of thing. But you see, the problem is, who are the heirs to the Herel lands there at Bouton? Oh, Cagney. You mean that bar in Soufrière of staunch Labour Party family, a staunch Labour Party grouping and supporters who have their people that come to service that bar and patronize. Good afternoon to you good folks down there this afternoon. Just imagine the level. People taking in a time of global pandemic and a government that borrows hundreds of millions of dollars. It can't pay for its ass, it's borrowing, but it's going to take state funds to compulsorily acquire, send surveyors up to a couple of days ago to force to put a bus stop about 30 feet away from what is already existing in a time where there's no money in the country and the Prime Minister says, we have no more money. Well, let's see why, the ulterior motive. Let's see exactly who or where this motive comes from in terms of Cagney.
Just with this way, je know equine and we pavie square so glues et moi we money moins. Error qui fait moi souffert glues et moi we money moins. Chasse it, moi douce pas error dans coup de soulier. Paye chasse musique pour pied. Sorti pour les bas un truc de flop pour hot pass à wait so glues et moi we money moins. Error qui fait moi souffert glues.
So you see the pettiness and vindictiveness that Shastney has brought in is pervasive throughout this entire cabinet. And it's one thing for Herod to be petty, but to want to take state resources for broke taxpayers out there, all of those who are economically being strangled right now, for all of those who cannot get any kind of benefits from the government owed to them by the fact that we all pay taxes, instead of just doing the work and leaving people alone. If you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Instead, what are you choosing to do? You want to take state funds to target people and politically victimize people. No problem. And now comes part two, because I know you thought that was all St. Lucia. But don't forget, I told you Herod is Minister for Planning. And we'll get into some of the other land acquisitions in places like Columbet and Delse in a while. But for right now, I want to put up this photo. And it's an interesting photo because I showed you about 8 or 9 places in Babono, about a couple days ago, where Fresh Start was doing work. You see Fresh Start doing work in Rodney Bay. So let's show the photo of Fresh Start in Belfort. And I want to zoom in on that picture a little bit. Government of St. Lucia National Roads Rehabilitation Project Package 1 again. Belfort through Old French Road, Rabot. Contractor, Fresh Start. Is anybody surprised? If it's not Fresh Start, it's Mega. If it's not Mega, it's Skelly. If it's not Skelly, it's Nationwide. Even though you have 80 to 100 formally registered contractors in St. Lucia, it's the 6 or 8 that Guy, Herod, Chasney, and Mangal and them like to use for obvious nefarious reasons. They'll tell you financed by Fresh Start, but Fresh Start already getting paid. So we can't come off of that. So I have some questions for Herod. My question is to you, sir. There's a lot of construction going on with regard to this road that's been done by Fresh Start from Belfort to Rabot. And I'm curious. Have you, Herod, Stanislaus, is bad enough that any taxi driver or anybody doing tours in St. Lucia that goes down to Soufrière has to be beholden to your mobster type grip hole on Soufrière to the point that all taxi drivers and so on must bring their fares up to your mother and father's restaurant, that your son runs roughshod with all contracts, including what's going on at the Soufrière Stadium, right? That you'll have your construction company, Skyline, and the yachts, the Sexy Lady 1 and Sexy Lady 2. But is it not a conflict of interest for you to have acquired 14 acres of land in the same Rabot area and now on the eve of elections are paving a road to go to your 14 acres of land? You don't know what I'm talking about? Okay. And I thank the outraged residents of Soufrière Fort-Saint-Jacques for that bit of amateur footage. But I guess I haven't provided you, Herod, enough evidence to know that I know what's going on. Okay. Wait, hold on. Because that is the Bath plant nursery. So I want you to see that I even know when you went to Bath for you to buy the plants for you to line up along your Herod estate. And shout outs to the folks over at the Bath Nursery. I don't think that there should be any political victimization there. I just got the soupçon and I got the footage. So leave the people alone. That's good people. But that said, folks, just so you can see it, because some of the footage that was shown there in the construction was a little bit shaky. Right now, Herod has acquired 14 acres of land and is using state resources in pure conflict of interest and corruption to be using the state resources to raise the value of his property, pave the road and cut the road to his private land as a minister of planning, which would mean that he would have the most direct oversight and infrastructure is Stephenson King and the rest of the cabinet that have accommodated and situated all of this. So what will they tell you? Oh, we're giving people jobs. Oh, we're developing a road. But the corruption is still right there for you. And every single photo that you see is of Herod's land. It's predominantly on the left ridge, but you get the picture.
Yo pa te ka iPhone, cause what they do, les gars so glou, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glou, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Chasse qui fait moi, sous fait glou, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glou, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Chasse qui fait moi, sous fait bailler, dans coup soulier. Chasse musique coupée, sorti pour les bas, après chasse ni combien pour tes routes là, je sais, pour ça là, toujours job là, ici, les fois c'est ici, ici, hot, couillon, hot, ouais, manière, bagaille, attends, manière, bagaille. But they put by labor so they changer. On t'a coûté, glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Chasse qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Yes, boy. Glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Chasse qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Error qui fait moi, sous fait glow, c'est moi, oui, money, moi. Chasse qui bouillé.
Corruption is killing St. Lucia. COVID just exposed just how rotten the carcass is. And that's the sad reality. And now they are going to take your money and money that they borrowed after taking so much for themselves. A taxi driver who is now selling out the base of Gopitor and has plans for more sales. Even revisiting in meetings with architects from Canada about reinstituting the trams between the Peters that Sir John spoke about. Secret meetings with Canadian billionaires. A taxi driver that's supposed to know just how much Soufrière relies on the sustainable tourism that comes from being a World Heritage Site. Now paving a road, carving a road, another direct award to Fresh Start, and everything on the left side of the road. 14 acres, all his, and nothing for that. And you need to re-elect him so that he can draw a pension, continue to maintain his 2 yachts, Sexy Lady 1 and Sexy Lady 2. That needs to happen. And you say, well, Emma made her money on her own. She bought her land. She built her farms. She doesn't need that. She made this UWP business model where you go in there to make your fortunes. Ask yourself, Guy Joseph always talk about, I had 11 cars on rental before this and before that, right? But yet Fresh Start never operated when Guy Joseph was out of office. But once he was in, direct awards from nowhere. They did not even own a truck. The land is being plundered by the very government that's supposed to be protecting us from pirates, from plunderers, from conmen. And we have a country being run adrift and aground by conmen. And now we get the confirmation of everything that I told you, that they come and say, Gaza Christopher, and damages and naysayer. Well, let's go for last lap now.
Canals Resort.
The time frame between when a developer shows interest in your opportunities and the beginning of the project averages anywhere from 2 to 7 years, and that is a global figure. It is therefore quite an achievement that after less than 2 years of indication of interest from the developers that we are now here signing the beginning of this project.
CIP-approved real estate projects around the region have not fared well with mixed results in some countries. While the government of St. Lucia has expressed faith in Galaxy Real Estate, the company has encountered challenges in other territories. For example, in St. Kitts, the much talked about Ramada by Wyndham Resort by Galaxy Real Estate, which has been under development since 2014, has yet to be completed with a revised opening date set for the first half of 2020.
So we went down the list of all the things that people wanted: healthcare, education, infrastructure, job opportunities, entrepreneurship, to be international, to earn an income that was high enough that I could travel around the world.
However, it should be noted that many of the CIP real estate projects in the Caribbean have been fraught with challenges. According to Investment Migration Insider, which has developed a tracking tool to keep tabs on such developments, quotes, too many CBI-approved projects either never get off the drawing board, grind to a halt, or aren't completed on time. In some cases, developers engage in downright fraud by collecting investment without building anything at all.
We have become a government that is evidence-based. I think that they have an amazing project in St. Kitts. We've sent people up to see it. It's fairly far advanced. And the Galaxy people seem very well financed. And I'm grateful, one, that they've chosen to come to St. Lucia. Two, I'm very grateful that they've been able to now step in to the project in Canals. And I'm looking forward to seeing that project start.
Are you comfortable with the investment?
I am.
We're also in very advanced stages. The plans have now been submitted to the DCA, and they're currently conducting their EIA at the property that we know as Honeymoon Beach. That is being done by a group called Galaxy. Galaxy currently are constructing a property in St. Kitts called Ramada.
CIP-approved real estate projects around the region have not fared well with mixed results in some countries. While the government of St. Lucia has expressed faith in Galaxy Real Estate, the company has encountered challenges in other territories. For example, in St. Kitts,
people seem very well financed.
According to Investment Migration Insider, which has developed a tracking tool to keep tabs on such developments, quotes, too many CBI-approved projects either never get off the drawing board, grind to a halt, or aren't completed on time. In some cases, developers engage in downright fraud by collecting investment without building anything at all.
The sad reality is that everybody knew that the project in St. Kitts was a con, so much so that up to now, in about 9 years, it still hasn't been finished. It still hasn't been finished. But like I showed you, the lawyer for Galaxy is the same lawyer that is the Prime Minister's personal lawyer. Once again, we have given up Canals lands after Chasney lost it once, along with Black Bay as Minister for Tourism. And Invest St. Lucia was very hush-hush about all of this until recently, when people like myself went down and saw a Chinese labor camp being built. Now again, I'm giving you the backstory. Folks, when COVID hit, the companies that were in the Caribbean, because China, as a faux democracy, right, has state-run or state-owned businesses like China State Construction, China Harbor Construction, and so on. And these global construction companies also are looking to put small governments around the world into debt traps, like what they've done with Sri Lanka and what we're on the verge of being in with regards to DSH, so that they can have what is known as the China One Road, One Belt, or China Silk Road, or String of Pearls. You see the 3 or 4 names that I've given you there? Just go on YouTube. You can say it's conspiracy theory, except that when you go, you will see the evidence, especially in terms of what's happening in Sri Lanka. Even the same terms, $2.6 billion investments. You can follow projects like the Bahama Hotel and the operatives there. But here's the big issue. These construction companies have left all of their laborers in the Caribbean, which is all Chinese labor. Now, we've had China as our diplomatic allies, and then we've switched from China to Taiwan. Now we are with Taiwan, and the Labour government under Kenny Anthony stayed with Taiwan before Chasney came, and who has technically stayed with Taiwan as well. That said, DSH and other projects which threaten to bring in Chinese obviously threaten our allegiance or our ties with Taiwan, to whom we owe more money, more of our national debt, over 60% of our national debt now that Shastney has signed for the airport. Over 60% of our national debt is beholden to, we owe Taiwan more than anywhere else and all the others combined. But yet we are dicking around with them by bringing in Chinese into St. Lucia with DSH, with Canals, Galaxy, and all the rest of that. The Chinese pulled out in COVID. They pulled all their companies out of the Caribbean. But they left all their laborers in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados. They left all of them there. And the governments of these countries don't want the Chinese laborers to just stay as a burden on the state. And all of them are fighting to negotiate back channels to figure out how to get the Chinese to accept their own people in their overpopulated China. However, in St. Lucia, we are welcoming in Chinese laborers even as we have record unemployment before COVID and now exploded through COVID. No unemployment benefits and no stimulus. But Shastney has taken some of the most pristine land in St. Lucia and he is allowing them to build not the hotel, the nice glug-glug renderings thing that you see, Chinese labor worker camps. They are building worker camps for Chinese. There are about 6 or 7 of them that are already here in terms of staying in a guest house that Shastney personally found for them in Tiroshi, Miku, right? And they have contracted a local contractor to do some of the works. And to Mr. Let me make sure I have your name right. The contractor Wesley from Riviera Meter. Do not let, because it's 7 of them and 6 of them don't speak English, right, properly. But do not ever let any Chinese person coming here or anybody, black or white, call any of your employees dog. If they don't even know how to speak English, do not let them call your workers that are down there dog. And I'm saying that on behalf of them. And you are St. Lucian, I don't fault you if you get in your work as a contractor. But check for your people because your government is not. And now, as your reminder, for those who don't believe it, and all the United Workers' Party supporters who keep putting blinders on, beware.
While under the sun, what's going on? I don't understand. Baboon, Mashton, and all around. Seems to me like we're losing ground. I notice we're losing way island. We're losing ground in Kosovo. We're losing ground in Black Mali. We're losing ground in Sofia. We're losing ground everywhere. I find it a real affront. Soon we can have a Pigeon Point. We're losing ground in Bohus. We're losing the country piece by piece. And I heard the people say, to expect we lose all Rodney Bay. Now tell me if that is fair. We have nowhere to give our soul square.
Yes, the new St. Lucia, our true St. Lucia. Yep. Folks, you know the worst part is, I've shown that clip before. This has been going on for the last year. It went through 2020. It's been happening. But until they speak out, then until they try to rationalize it and sanitize it and spin it, folks, you know and I know that St. Lucia has an unemployment problem. You know and I know that if you were going to be building a legitimate thing and you needed labor, you could have gotten laborers from Dennery, from Monrepo, from Soufrière, from Micoud, from all over the country, Babono, Grosile. People would go wherever, and none of them need to sleep in any property. Imagine they don't even have English on any of the equipment there. That's to show you how serious they are. You're going to hear from a man that is known in the business community simply as the snake. A man who lied just like his prime minister and said that once he became leader of or chairman of the UWP that he would resign his position as head of Invest St. Lucia, Pinkley Francis. You know what I noticed? Invest St. Lucia has a what you call it, a logo, make it your own. And never has it been so telling. You know, America tells you to assimilate, to become American. But apparently Invest St. Lucia is inviting people under Pinkley Francis and Roderick Sherry to come to St. Lucia and make it their own. And sadly, that's exactly what's happening.
Invest St. Lucia has breathed new life into the previously abandoned Canals Development Project, and an Asian-owned real estate company, Caribbean Galaxy Group, has inked a multi-million-dollar deal with the government to construct 2 sprawling luxury resorts at the canal site in Micoud. The COVID-19 pandemic has delayed the start of canals construction. However, once completed and operational, several new jobs could become available to scores of St. Lucians, a plus for Invest St. Lucia and the economy. Now, the preferred construction arrangement for any development venture, according to Invest St. Lucia executives, would be to use St. Lucian companies and laborers. However, where canals is concerned, Caribbean Galaxy Group has opted to fly in most of their workforce.
NBC Prime obtained footage of a recently built compound reportedly constructed for the purposes of housing foreign workers.
If, say, I know you've been running away from it, but if, say, an investor comes and he says that I want to have 1,000 or 90% people from X country that are not St. Lucians, Invest St. Lucia would then say no. Okay, you can put it in your proposal, but we will not recommend a project that does not benefit St. Lucians and St. Lucian employment. Although we're not necessarily the ones signing the contract, we as a government agency responsible for investments do have an opinion and we would have no issues in giving that opinion.
That opinion is presumably considered by the Cabinet of Ministers, who ultimately determines whether to proceed with a development project. Canals has been earmarked for touristic development since 2007. The ensuing decades-long and at times controversial attempts to lock in an investor came to fruition in 2019.
This is the fruit of visionary leadership, hard work, time, policy making, bold partnership, and extensive promotion.
A groundbreaking ceremony for Caribbean Galaxy Group's Canals Resort Development Project, hosted by the government, was held more than a year ago, last January.
This is a development that we can support.
Caribbean Galaxy Group will transform hundreds of acres of pristine coastal Miku land into high-end vacation suites and condominiums. The lucrative contracts to build Galaxy Group's Canals Resort, however, appear destined for outside workers. Invest St. Lucia chairman Binkley Francis is hoping to change that.
I was privy to the contract that Canals had with AM Resorts, and they were very, very strict timelines. They have been eager to come to St. Lucia and they want to see it happen now, right? So they had to deliver that project within a specified period of time. Very unrealistic in my mind, but I think it was ambitious, but they felt they could do it. The best option was to bring in labor from outside. So we did negotiate with them very, very hard. And obviously, myself, the Prime Minister, it's St. Lucia first, you know, so we need to make sure that our people get the jobs first, right? And especially you're aware that it is a CIP project. So our position was that 80% of the employees has to be St. Lucians, right? And that is where we were with that, right? I believe since the pandemic, the project has pretty much slowed down. They have committed to moving ahead with the project, but there is definitely an opportunity to revisit that. We have people available right now because a lot of the project has slowed, right? And when we do decide to start that project again, it will be a different conversation.
NBC Prime understands the compound built not too far from the Canals Resort site at Miku is currently uninhabited. Now, sources close to the project claim the workers expected to occupy the living quarters will come from parts of Asia.
What was the ideal quota? I mean, what was the ideal quota, or let's say negotiating on the amount of workers?
I'll tell you what I want is 100% St. Lucians. That is my ideal quota.
The best option was to bring in labor from outside. So we did negotiate with them very, very hard.
The Canals Resort Development Project, once mired in controversy, has again been signed off on and is on track to begin construction. Except most of the laborers for the Canals project, which is spearheaded by Caribbean Galaxy Group, an Asian-owned real estate firm, will be imported.
The best option was to bring in labor. The best option was to bring in labor.
Personally, as the chairman of the United Workers' Party, I think that actually might be a good line for you to repeat when you get closer to elections. The best option is probably to bring in labor, as in the Labour Party, to stop what is going on there. Because, folks, I want you to realize that there were 7 to 8 Chinese nationals here. There's one named Mr. Yung, there's one named Mr. Ren Wau, W-A-U, and he's the one that speaks English from Boston, Massachusetts education. And it's not just what they're doing right now, but Invest St. Lucia can also clarify whether Ren Wau and the rest of them who are staying in T. Rocher in the guest house that Chasney found them. And we can put the phone number up now, 572-7588, 484-7588. We can talk about this or anything else, but I have some questions. Because St. Lucia's fishers are mainly pelagic fishers. In other words, they fish on the surface of the sea. But the ecosystem is related, it's linked. So my question is Mr. Ren Wau also going to be allowed with the rest of these Galaxy people to bring in trawlers, fishing trawlers, between 8 and 12 of them, so that they can decimate what's left of our fishing sector that Tewa King is already ready to build a causeway on and destroy the OECS's largest fish nursery of the Mang, of the mangrove, and you're going to let these people come in after you're already giving them to sell our passports to develop their own property again. And we do not even have a say. Oh, I would like to see, hey, Roderick, you fooling anybody with that shit? Oh, I'd like to see 100%. Y'all ass kissers, all of y'all. My God, it's so sickening. It's so sickening. We have a call. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, hello, Christopher. What's up, man?
Skybirds, trees, and plains. Talk to me, caller.
So listen. So what I understand, right, is that the Flabo party is going to bring Chinese worker in to St. Lucia.
Caller, let us get something right. And if I didn't update you, let me tell you. There are already 7 of them here, right? More came in on the 23rd, but I cannot reveal all the details without exposing my sources. So I will wait, because more are coming in next week, and each week as we go along, there are going to be more and more of them coming. They are not necessarily coming from China, but they are Chinese, because they're coming from the other parts of the region, like Jamaica that has Chinese. You have Chinese in Trinidad, you have Chinese in Barbados, like that. But they have already started arriving. So in other words, the 23rd, right, more came in. This week, more coming. Next week, more coming.
So just now, so solutions are going to sit down, just relax and just say wow, because we're going to have like Chinese, like champagne here, exactly. Wow. So we're going to be watching Chinese take over our industry and just sit back and shout wow.
Yeah, because but Hedda, the Prime Minister has been boasting about how his election projects, the infrastructure projects, and the jobs they're creating. Now imagine you have a project and you bring it, and let me tell you, when these guys come here, right, they're not living here, you know. They're staying here for the rest of their life, their children, everything. And that little Chinese labor camp, the thing is, they're saying it's 1. The truth is, it's already 2 buildings. And they already have the material. They're building as many as 6 buildings, because it's supposed to be 200, you know. I thought it was 96, then I heard 100. Then 200 Chinese workers.
Bro, that's crazy. St. Lucia, we have to get up and fight for our country. We can't sit back and just watch people take over our country and just say wow, like champagne. Because we all know when Alan fat, champagne, and then will be the first to be perfume.
Yeah.
No, come on, brother.
Exactly.
So, you know, like, I just don't get it, man. Let's get up, unite, and fight.
Agreed, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. We have a caller that's on hold. Good afternoon, caller. Hello? No? Okay. Well, we'll try to take a couple more calls. If anybody's going to be speaking in Mandarin, I haven't learned the language yet, if that's what's going to happen in terms of St. Lucia. But folks, you know, it really does cause you to think. Good afternoon. Hello? Oh, okay. I thought we had that call. It really does cause you to second guess and to reflect and to think. You have the land, the people, the light. What are we without our land, our most finite resource? What people are we if we allow everybody, that anyone and everyone, to come and take advantage of us? And we have a government that is literally promoting that. Good afternoon, caller. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon, sir.
Well, always try to take part in your show. What I really don't like is we St. Lucians, we just a lot of talk and no action at the end of the day. That's why the Prime Minister can open his mouth and say we are just backing dogs, mendicants, and all that kind of things, because he know we don't have the balls to stand up towards what he is doing right now. We don't have that. We just have a lot of talk. That's why guys say we just start crying, because all of them know exactly what we're going to go through them being in charge of St. Lucia.
Very true.
Are not serious. They are not serious, and they're not ready yet, because all what we are going through, we all seeing it. Some of us are just closing a blind eyes to what that's going on, but we all seeing what is going on, and it's just a start. And it's not right. It's definitely not right, especially from the young people that's coming up. What we are showing nothing for them.
I just hope that people are recognizing it. I don't know. I can never be certain, because like I said, you can come and pave a road, and do you really care when they come and pave a road by your home? How many people necessarily care that Fresh Start do the road, or Herod land, all of that. Because the guys have successfully, I think to an extent, normalized corruption. Nothing for that. Now in a country that so desperately needs employment, you fly in Chinese workers?
Yeah, but you can see that again. St. Lucians don't have the balls to stand up towards them, fellas, against them for what they're doing. But we had balls like Matnick and them kind of people start burning down buildings and start putting down trucks and start burning things. The government will take things very serious.
Well, Caller, we don't even need to break the law. The fact of the matter is, within even the law right now, we could find ways to resonate. But if you ask people to stand up for the nurses, you know what happens? They don't. You ask them to stand up for the farmers, they don't. And each one watching over and saying, why you stand up for yourself? And we don't stand up for each other. That is the problem.
So, what's the difference between Kenny and Chasney? Why they could have stand up to against Kenny in what he did, and they cannot stand up towards what Chasney doing? What was the difference? Chasney have the biggest power, or he's just more serious than all the other prime ministers that was there?
Well, I can only tell you Chasney is the worst prime minister I've ever seen, and I'm pretty sure that will be his place in history if St. Lucia's history still remains written in English. But that said, I don't know. I do think that there's a double standard. I refuse to believe that should Philip J. Pierre become Prime Minister of St. Lucia, that he would be able, in fact, he wouldn't even attempt, because that's not his personality, but I don't think he would get away with 1/10% of what Chasney and them are doing.
No, at all. That is so true.
It's just
that
a fact.
Is so true.
So what is it about ourselves that we like to have people make us suffer and cry? All I'd say is that right now, we better change that, because it's not just us, it's our children.
Well, Christopher, I don't know again. I am frustrated. You see all that talk between Richard Frederick putting out and you putting out and others putting out so much, and people and nothing is not happening. It doesn't make any kind of sense. For me, that is just frustrating people more, knowing that some people willing to put the effort to do something about it and nothing. I don't know. I don't know. St. Lucia is just...
I share your frustration. That's the one thing I could tell you. I very, very much share your frustration. And I go around the country. You can see when I go to Frey, I go down to Dennery, I go to Canaries, I go Babono, you know, and you go and you see it all over the country. And it's almost like we're in a comatose state. And yet people are so frustrated on the ground. All I can say is something is going to happen. I don't sanction.
I'm just hoping that when SLP come into power, a couple of them ministers take jail.
Well, I can tell you, if the Labour Party gets into office and none of those guys are exposed, put in jail, made to pay back the money or anything, that you know what will happen? The Labour Party will be right back out of office again. So
yeah, but that's true. But that is so true.
They have to know. They need to know.
Especially Guy. They need to investigate and Guy, and they have enough evidence to put Guy away.
Let me tell you something. All of them. Call all of them in it. Whether you call Sarah, you look at Estee, all of them in it. Make no mistake about it.
At the end of the day, they get themselves rich, they get the family rich, they get foreigners rich, and we suffering with all what that's supposed to be ours.
Agreed.
And it's not right, because we have people. And let me not take much of your time. I show you have other callers, but it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, caller.
Saying what I have to say. It's just frustrating. It is just frustrating.
Have a good weekend, if nothing else. Thank you.
You too. Thanks a lot.
No problem. We'll try to take one more call. Good afternoon. If there are there's a call on the line. Good afternoon. Thank you for holding.
Hey, Mr. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you, sir?
I'm ready. I want elections. I ready. I don't even, whatever the result is, I'm ready there right now. I want something to happen.
I'm ready just like you. Honestly, I'm ready. Let me ask you, Chris, why Miku South?
Why Miku South for what?
This Chinese settlement down in the Miku area. Why is in that particular area?
Okay, first of all, that's the land that Chasney gave them. I know it's his constituency, but let's be honest, he's also given Teoa King. Teoa King can bring in Chinese, and just so you know, until the injunction was filed by the landings, The plan was to bring in Grozile. They were going to dump 5 or 6 containers by the landing site there and make same kind of Chinese working quarters. And the same company, Chinese Harbor Construction, that built the Grace Kennedy Center in Jamaica was supposed to supply the labor for Sandals Lassus. And Sandals Lassus, Spider, and the rest of the cabinet agreed to have 70% Chinese workers and 30% St. Lucian. So it is not...
Spider did that?
Yes, and the rest of the cabinet. But because of the injunction by the landings, that is the only thing that stopped that. And here's the worst part. So what you're seeing down in Micoud South is only a template of what they wanted to do in Grozile, in what's the name of this place? In Vieux-Fort, which is still happening, and also in Micoud. So now you know that's what has happened so far. So what you think is going to happen if they win the next election is just more Chinese?
So let me ask you, Chris, after Grozile is so heavily populated, you would have that kind of activity going on in Grozile?
Caller, I'm telling you where the containers are going to go. I can tell you that a Trinidadian Chinese man even was coming and staying at what is not the official residence, because they are not the official diplomatic representatives. The Chinese embassy where I showed you all when they locked Renault's workers in there, there was a Chinese architect that came down here to present plans for beaches that they wanted to put after Sandals Lassus. So all of that is in train. Once Chasney wins the next election, ball fini.
But Chris, what these Chinese, would they be involved in that what was the name of the hotel again?
The Galaxy project, yes.
Right. Would they be involved in the construction of that Galaxy hotel?
But that's exactly what they say. They bring them in for the construction. But you also have another problem. Galaxy is marketing its product. If it sells our 1,000 passports or whatever it is for them to raise the money to build it, the Chinese laborers there right now, first of all, just as a principle, Chinese, the market that they are going after is Asians. Asians don't like to be served by black people. So the truth is, many of these same construction workers will remain as laborers when the hotel is built. And there will be more to come. At least 200 Chinese laborers are set to come in and have already started coming in from the 23rd of March. I'm giving you the exact date that they started to come in outside of the 6 or 7 that have come in already.
And they will finally become citizens, right?
Well, they will re-sign their work permits, like the 6 or 7 that are here. And Teoa King's quote-unquote jockeys, I showed you, they have them already, they are signing, and once they sign about 3 or 6 times with immigration or whatever each year, after that, then they can apply for citizenship or whatever.
Now, I remember there was a situation in St. Kitts with that same hotel and them Chinese.
And the hotel, let me tell you something, that Galaxy group is such a con. They said they were building a Ramada as a 5-star resort. My aunt, Miss Wilson, in the United States, in Phoenix, Arizona, she was the head of Ramada for the entire United States. And you know what? Ramada does not do properties over 3 stars. So it was always a con. And up to now, the property in St. Kitts is not finished, but yet they are supposed to be doing something here.
And you remember those Chinese were giving trouble, I think it was the end of a particular year. Yep. That they were giving trouble, and you know they were outside the property.
Not only there, kind of thing. Caller, not only there, but in the Bahamas, where they ended up at the end of the Bahama project. You can see it for yourself online.
Right.
By the end of that project, where there was supposed to be 7,000 jobs were supposed to be created in that project, right? Over 70% of it were Chinese workers.
So, remember guy fait St. Kitts et Bahamas là, c'est même guy qui fait cette mission.
Exactly, the con is the business model, and in the meantime, to make the governments happy in terms of the Chinese government, we are now going to be absorbing Chinese labor here. Barbados don't want. Barbados heavily populated. Jamaica don't want. But you know, of course, we have a bois conman here. So
St. Lucians, I hope St. Lucians are listening, you know.
I can only
this
pray.
Thing is real, you know.
And happening as we speak.
I am encouraging St. Lucians, do not make that mistake and believe that Alan Chasney is doing anything good for them to deserve another term, you know.
You know what is important for people to recognize in St. Lucia? When we told you that they were privatizing healthcare, you don't have to wait for after elections. It's happening right now. When we told you they would be importing Chinese labor, you don't have to wait for 4 months from now. It started happening weeks ago, and even in the first 6 or 7 of them have been on the ground for over a year. I tell you,
But
where
anyway,
in Tiroche they stayed in the guest house.
I want to say one final thing to Alan Chasney and his government. If they feel that they are doing a good job, if they feel that they have assisted St. Lucians, they have made life better for St. Lucians, I don't see any need for them to hold back. Call the general election.
Agreed.
Call it.
Agreed.
We waiting.
I agree if you call it.
Call it. What y'all waiting for? If you feel you're doing a good job, call the elections. We waiting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. I agree with that sentiment 1,000%. If you all feel you're doing such a good job, call the elections. Call it on Tuesday. Call it. Please. Please call it. In the meantime, I wish everybody a good weekend. You're starting with Good Friday tomorrow. And in whatever ways that you are restricted, remember that at least we still have the opportunity to be alive and to find a way forward. I'm hoping that I don't have any murders to report over when we come back on Tuesday. I'm hoping for those of you who are so frustrated and depressed that you can make it through this weekend. I know it's going to be a mental and psychological challenge with all of the restrictions and the inability to connect with family in the way that many of us would have liked to. I know that you see the double standards. I know you see the bullshit. And sadly, I will have to go out like many to police what is going on, because even as the police themselves are saying that the UWP will not operate in the typical manner of amoral politicking, even in Good Friday, I know a little bit better.
You cannot have a law on our law books, and it is law for some and not for all. Now, why do I say that? On Good Friday, while some city police officers are on Jeremy Street taking alcohol from people and literally throwing the people rum away, people are in Forestier with the same Castries Constituency Council taking tents to Forestier to facilitate the sale and consumption of the very alcohol that the city police are throwing away from people in Castries. Now, folks, I am saying, let me repeat. If everybody wants to have a choice, have a choice. No problem. But you cannot have a law for some, although I am saying that law shouldn't be there. But as Justice Dove said, it must, unless it's taken off the books. It is there. You know? You cannot have a law for some and the law is not for others. It is either one, we get rid of the law, two, we obey it, or three, police let everybody do what they want. So once the city police are throwing people alcohol in Castries, my good friend, the mayor, Peterson, and I told him so, I met him yesterday, I told him so. He was at Forestier. Guy Joseph, who organized the event at Forestier. Hugh Baldus was at Forestier. And many other government officials, government vehicles at Forestier, Castries City Council tents at Forestier. People are under the tent selling and drinking alcohol at Forestier. You know, shops open in Forestier. Wom govern a Forestier, mais yo ka jete wom je Castries. Point na me yo ek jete. There were even custom officers who are charged with the liquor licensing enforcement. They too were at Forestier negotiating. They were having a drink. You know, they were having a drink there too. So I don't understand what is going on. Let me show you a few pictures. Yes, all of those pictures, folks, are at Forestier. Those things, SLG 3179, you see where it is? At Forestier on Good Friday. You know, watch people congregate. That bar there is Stanis Bar. Stanis Bosware. Man problem you know. But my point, oh, look, the minister of everything here. Guy Joseph at Forestier. You know. Best drinking at Forestier. Everything is happening. Look at that. You know, there's actually a picture of money changing hands. Money was changing hands. You can go on. Yes. Look, Promise is in that picture there. Promise, a customs officer. Look him right there. Look, somebody's paying for the alcohol in the presence of the customs officer. And they are charged with the responsibility of liquor license enforcement. Right there in Forestier. The tents under which they are came from Castries City Council or Castries Constituency Council. You know, and the police are in Castries taking people's alcohol and throwing it away, whilst others are up there because there are government officials up there. Police pakaila. Folks, let me say this. I have no problems with what goes on at Forestier on a Good Friday. None. I have none. But my difficulty is you cannot, you should not, you ought not have a law that applies to some and not to all.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.